Welcome back to Mobility Insider. I'm Morten Hannesbo. Our channel remains unsponsored. All of the views and conclusions are based on me having had a 35-year career in the automotive business. Today we're going to be reviewing this car. This is the 2025 Mercedes G580 with EQ technology, the first G-Class which is fully electric and of course still resembles the original G-Class from 1979. Originally the G-Class was developed to be a military off-roader, and it wasn't until a few years later Mercedes launched more luxurious versions of the G-Class. In the beginning they had rather small 4-cylinder engines, and later on Mercedes added some of the bigger, more powerful V8 and even V12 engines. During the first 20 years the car was also sold in many markets under the brand Puch, but since the year 2000 it has only been available as a Mercedes G-Class. Despite the boxy design and the, frankly speaking, miserable fuel economy, the car has developed into an icon, and despite the way it looks, it is hugely desirable to many people. The G580 EQ isn't just an electrified G-Class, it is a serious off-roader with a marvelously re-engineered electric drivetrain that stays true to the original drive feel of a G-Class. The exterior sticks closely to the classic Mercedes G-Class silhouette. The bonnet is a little bit higher, but apart from that you're not going to find major differences. What is interesting is that the car looks big, but in fact it is quite a compact large SUV because the length is only 462 centimeters, plus of course the cable box that you have at the rear that adds 24 centimeters. The width, including mirrors, is only 219 centimeters, and that makes the car almost compact compared to a Range Rover or an Audi Q7. You do feel the relatively compact exterior dimensions when you sit at the back of the vehicle or you look at the cargo space, because that really isn't that impressive relatively seen to the size of the vehicle. But where the car is impressive is its weight, because it weighs 3,150 kilos. So with a driver and 4 passengers, you very easily reach the limit of 3,500 kilos, which is what a normal driver with a license in Switzerland is allowed to drive. And the turning circle is also huge with 13.6 meters, which means you have to turn the steering wheel and maneuver a little bit more than with other SUVs. The fun begins at about 162,900 Swiss francs, but if you want some of the bells and whistles, very quickly that price tag goes up to about 200,000 Swiss francs. And if you take this vehicle, a fully spec'd test vehicle from Mercedes, this will cost you about 250,000 Swiss francs. As I mentioned, driving a G-Class is something special. Let me take you on a test drive, and we will also be measuring the efficiency of the vehicle with its 4 motors and huge 116 kilowatt-hour battery. Inside the G-Class, I think you're probably going to like the rocket design, and also the build quality it feels like the car is built like a rock. You have very solid materials, high quality materials. You have a finish with use of carbon fiber and some metallic looking plastic parts. The seats are comfortable, they're not that large. I think if you're a person larger than I am, maybe you'll find them a little bit tight. If I compare the seats to the Range Rover seats, probably I would say that the Range Rover is a little bit more luxurious. It's not that the G-Class is not luxurious, it is, but it's very different from a Range Rover that has a completely different next level comfortable feel to it. And of course it's again different from, say, a Porsche Cayenne, which is much more sporty. The G-Class is what it is, and many people like it for that. So I guess the best comparison to the G-Class is probably the Land Rover Defender, the new generation of the Defender, because both cars give you that feeling of luxury, and at the same time it's not compromised on practicality. You can still go off-road with the car, even though the Mercedes G-Class is very luxurious when you look inside. Carbon fiber, you got the metallic plastic parts here, you have Alcantara roof inside the vehicle. So this is a luxurious car, but it can still go off-road. You get dual 12.3-inch screens, and you get the BUX system, which works really well, and I like that. And you get a Burmeister sound system, and that really sounds incredible, but also cost a lot of money. The driver assist systems come from the big toolbox from Mercedes, from the other cars they have. It works okay, but I think the tuning of it is not as good as I would like it to be. When you're using the adaptive cruise control, it does react quite late, and then it brakes quite hard. So if you're a passenger, I don't think it's that comfortable. Also, the lane control is a little bit nervous. Now it's using the lane control. Actually, I don't particularly like it, but of course, you can also just not use it. Something I really don't like, and you can see it here, you have a lot of function on the steering wheel. And these are haptic shiny buttons. I don't particularly like that. But what is even worse in the G-Class is that you have dual function. So you have the upper function, which is the trip computer and what is in front of you. And the lower function here on the left side is for the cruise control. And the problem with that is that as a driver, you have to look very often to see if you hit the right button. Even if you drive the car for a longer distance like I now have, it is not logical and easy to use it. I think Mercedes can do a lot better here. To me, and I have pointed this out in other videos when I tested cars with the same issues, to me the best system today on the market is what Audi does. Audi has a stalk on the left side. We can easily use it to control the cruise control speed, lift it up, lift it down, and cancel it. And that is the best solution for me. This is not the best solution. So in a second we're going to go on the highway, and here you'll probably hear that there's a fair amount of wind noise because the shape of the vehicle is what it is. It's a bit like a wall moving at 110 or 120 kilometers per hour on the highway. And what is almost a bit funny is that the front screen is like a big magnet for insects, and they will hit the screen and they will stay there. So we've now done about half the standard test. So far we have a consumption of 30.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in warm temperatures. Quite a high number, of course. In terms of performance, the G-Class electric will do 180 kilometers maximum. It's limited to 180 kilometers per hour. Acceleration from 0 to 100 is promised to be 4.7. We did 4.58 seconds in our test. The power is in total 432 kilowatts, 587 horsepower, and the torque is about 1,164 Newton meter. The 4 individual motor setup gives you some unique features and opportunities. So for instance, you can do a G-turn where the wheels on left and right will move in different directions, so the car will turn 360 degrees around its own axis. Another is G-steering, which improves the agility by adjusting the torque to the individual wheels. The battery is a massive 124 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. Net you have 116 kilowatt hours at your disposal for the range. It is a lithium ion battery. It is mounted on the ladder frame that gives you a very solid vehicle that is good both off-road and on-road. That big battery gives you in theory a WLTP range of 472 kilometers. Now that is probably really in theory, because I don't think you're going to get that much. In real life, it's more likely to be 350 and a maximum of 400 kilometers of everyday range. Mercedes uses a 400 volt technology for the G-Class, and that gives you a semi-fast charging of 200 kilowatt max, and that will give you 10 to 80% charging of the back of the big battery in about 32 minutes. In the base version, you'll get a G-Class for 162,900 Swiss francs. That means before you finish speccing it, you'll get to probably 200,000. And in this case, the test vehicle will cost about 250,000 Swiss francs. Is that a fair price? Well, it really depends. If you buy into the luxury concept of the vehicle, I think you can justify it. But of course, if you look at what it gives you, you could also find cheaper cars like the Ineos Grenadier or maybe a Defender from Land Rover. They will give you the same function for much less money. But there's no doubt many people really like the Mercedes G-Class, and they are ready to pay a hefty price tag for it. Okay, so that concludes the test route, and in fact the consumption is better than I anticipated. We landed with a consumption of 25.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and that compares to 19.4 kilowatt hours for the Porsche Taycan 4S and 19.2 for the Cadillac Lyriq. So in that benchmark, of course, the G-Class is significantly higher, but I actually anticipated that number to be even higher than 25.1 kilowatt hours. So that's a pass for me for the G-Class. That brings me to the conclusion on the G580 EQ. And frankly speaking, I love the vehicle. Yes, in many ways it is totally pointless, but still it is also hugely desirable. Just in the same way a Hermes bag is pointless and hugely desirable. Over the entire test we had an average consumption of about 30 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. At the standard route test we had a better number, just 25.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Of course, that is not brilliant either. This is not an economical car, but in other ways it will win you over. Up front, it is fairly majestic. You have a lot of space and you have a good visibility of the road. But if you sit on the back seat or you're trying to put in bulky load into the trunk space, the car is actually quite cramped, which is counterintuitive when you look at how big the car is. I've decided to give the G580 3.5 out of 4 stars. The consumption is quite high. The weight is very high with 3.15 tons. The seat and the cargo space at the rear, both are quite cramped. And finally, of course, it is a very expensive car. But the technology that the car offers and the image of the G-Class does compensate for these shortcomings. Is it a car that I would like to own? Yes, I have to be very honest. I would love to own a G-Class. But it's a car I wouldn't buy with my head, but with my heart. Thank you for watching Mobility Insider. If you know someone who might benefit from seeing the video, please do share it with that person. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.